Yes, I'm doing it.
Oh, you're doing it. Awesome.
Good. All right, I think we'll get started here. Just as people, I'm sure more will be jumping in, but thanks everyone. Got a few weeks ago. You get me again, nobody else. Kyle is on vacation this week. Last week he was trying to visit the place and it didn't quite go as well, but he did get some work done on home. He's moving to town, so he got some of that done, but he had hoped to go up and visit the Menominee Nation, but that did not pan out. What I'd like to do today, I sent out that agenda, but so first thing I'd like is just some updates and questions any people may have, particularly from the small groups that you don't see addressed on the agenda. If there's something you really want to share that is not on the agenda that you would like to ask questions about or address, otherwise we'll just move into the agenda. So chance for anybody to add anything they want to hear about or talk about. All right, then. The one thing, I guess, a couple people met with Volker and Chris met with Kyle and some others on Friday morning. Do you have any? I didn't quite know. Kyle thought that went well. I'd like to hear your guys' opinion, either Chris or Volker.
Yeah, I think it went well. It was helpful discussion. We focused on the analysis of large spatial temporal data sets, doing significance testing and so forth, and dealing with the correlation issues that are involved. And Kyle and Chris had some good potential solution for some of the problems that I brought up. And I think it was helpful to talk so I could articulate the problem a little bit better. I think Kyle understood now what I'm after, and Chris was great as a translator between me and Kyle, if I may say that. So it was productive. I think we need now to think about how are we writing this up so that it's easily accessible to an AI audience, but we got somewhere.
Okay, excellent. That's good to hear. Did any other small groups have anything they want to share? Otherwise, I'm going to jump into the agenda.
I can share quickly, Paul, what we have. Actually, we don't have the document written in the drive yet because we're still working, discussing. So we have a meeting. And I guess now we get into a point that, you know, it's kind of, the objectives are getting clear and we're going to have a more concrete. So the ball is with me. Now I have to draft the product of our last meeting and reshare with them. So we are converting to a specific project idea and timeline and stuff. So I hope to do this week, and then we're gonna upload a more digested.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. I don't know, Volker, 4th Street. Jingyi, I don't know if you've had any progress. You want to talk about anything? Just say no or shake your head if you don't have anything to add. Otherwise, share anything if your group's been, if you've had any progress on the soils.
Yeah, so I've been talking with Chris. So we're making the modified version of the narratives. So we should get like 3 pages also send it to you probably in the next few weeks.
Okay.
So I just want to quick follow up with Chris. Chris, did you check with Paul about the logistic about the whatever the budget for summer salaries, or how would that go?
Not yet, but I'm counting on today.
Yeah. Yep, the budget's at the end. That's where we got to get moving on. Okay, Chris, or maybe you're at both meetings. Is some of the stuff in the soils consistent with the stuff Volker was raising about the correlations and stuff? Is that on the remote sensor? Is that all kind of one related topic? It seems you're the one person to ask, as you were kind of at both meetings.
Okay, I think the data are similar, but the problems that we're discussing are actually a bit different.
Okay, I just wanted to know. All right. Anything from the, we'll call it broadly, the food security group? I don't know if you guys have had any meetings or any more or anything. I guess that's Catherine, Craig, and Karen. I don't know if you have anything to share.
We have not had any other meetings. Chris, I'll talk to you about setting one up. I guess the one thing I do know is what did you want from us in terms of a write-up?
Yep, that's coming next. That's what we're after. That's today's meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Anything from the small groups? Otherwise, that's what I'm going to move into next. All right.
I'm just going to mention quickly, some of us on the sort of machine learning side are discussing things. I put some more stuff into the document, and we're going to try to meet up this week.
Okay, that's good. That's the group
That's like me, Elena, Jim Lutke, and Michael Ferris.
okay, excellent. That's kind of the part that I want to talk about today. I can organize we'll call them CALS people, but I don't know how to organize you all because I don't know your world. So what I'd like to do is share my screen and talk about the project description, and then so I'm going to do that quick here. Give me a second. I had hoped Kyle would have had time to put some outline in before he left, but he did not. And so what this is it's a new document just called project description, doesn't have the one after it. But what I've done is took some of the stuff. Helena was one person who did I put some of her material in, left a note there, she can add on. But it's the structure of the document that's laid out roughly in the solicitation. And then in blue are the things that they gave us as sort of what's supposed to be covered in that section. And the description of the research plan of the Institute is the major component of it all. And like I said, this is the part I'd hoped Kyle would have had more time to put some structure to it. What I've done is taken what was in the pre-proposal and add that in here and some verbiage around it. But it's far from what I want. And so my hope is particularly on the AI side, like Rob, you were mentioning, to start putting some structure to this. And then that would be, I guess, from this section backward. It's the vision of the center and of the Institute and all. And unfortunately, Kyle, he's not really officially working for UW, and he's in the process of moving, and they had this vacation plan a long time ago. And so it's just bad timing. So I basically said, I'm deputizing every one of you who thinks you're an AI to start working on this. If you've been working yourselves, organizing some together along those three themes, more the power to you. I don't feel obliged I can't tell you what to do. That's what I'll basically say. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything or talk about it. I'm all ears.
Yeah, I guess I would just say that, it might be good to just give us our group of us some marching orders, like just write down some material that could potentially end up in the proposal that kind of lays out some research directions that we'd like to pursue. But then once we get that into some working document, we can also get inputs from other people on more the agricultural food science sides, and then look at where we see I have a pretty good idea of some of the needs that have come up in some of the discussions, but I feel like we just have to start writing some stuff that will be sort of foundational AI that's motivated by the challenges faced in this particular application domain. And I think that's not going to be too difficult for us to do, but then it'll be a matter of really connecting the dots, like building bridges between some of the more applied aspects of the proposal and the more AI foundational ones. And that can't happen until we have some stuff laid down.
Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying. And the closest I have is what we had in the pre-proposal.
Yeah,
but
so
I'm
we'll
sorry.
kind of build on that.
Take what you have.
But it would be nice to know, like, are you looking for us to provide 2 pages of research, proposed research, or what? That's really what we
okay.
need.
Yes, and my feeling is we've got roughly a page of, we'll say, introductory material from the pre-proposal, and I've got some clarity on the use-inspired stuff where I feel far more comfortable giving marching orders, and that's going to be roughly 10 pages. There's broader impacts at the end, which is 3 to 4 pages, I'm guessing. So that's, say, 8 to 10 pages. And however you think it should be best to structure it. It's essentially, we've got the 3 themes: decision-making in an uncertain and non-stationary environment, the multimodal, multi-scale modeling, data and modeling, and the social themes. And the first one is optimization broadly, I would argue, and that's sort of I would call that a Michael and Jim world. Multimodal data and modeling, that is, I don't know whose world. I mean, I think Chris was talking to Volker and Kyle had some ideas there. Maybe they could start in that one. But basically, I feel like you're talking to the sergeant and the general's not here, and I don't even know what to tell you to do. That's the honest truth there.
Yeah.
And so if you want to take leadership, do it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, we'll meet up and come up with something, but it does sound like 2 pages would probably be a good start, and probably more than 5 pages would be too much. So we'll just start thinking about like kind of coming up with some nuggets of proposed research that we feel would fit well with the overarching theme of the Institute. And, my experience working, I'm on another AI institute that's run out of Ohio State. I did see that quite a bit of the meat of the proposal, if you will, was driven by the application domain people. In that case, it was networking people. So people who do stuff in the internet, and there was tons of talk about 5G and about edge-based computing and things that are really not my area of expertise, not what I would consider like the center of foundational AI stuff, but more like how is it really going to enable new capabilities in this application domain. So I do feel like we don't have to, we want to say that there's going to be new AI coming out of this, but I mean, I think that we can really rest a lot of the real sort of centering of the proposal can rest with you guys. Yeah, I think that's, just again, based on the ones I've seen in education, in networking, in other applied domains, there really was the leadership came from the applied domain.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I wish we'd asked you about that earlier. I think
so. The things I've seen and heard you all discuss seem like they'll be great things in the narrative. I think we just want to make sure that it doesn't feel like, oh, you all are doing really cool stuff, and that people like me or Michael Ferris or whoever have nothing to contribute, right? That would not. We want to say yes, there are lots of ways we can help, but
that's okay. That's what these small groups are doing, and I will bring that back. I've sort of asked the small groups to think about things you can do that be nice to talk to people that know the AI literature, like the meeting that happened with Volker and Chris and Kyle on last Friday, where they understood the issue. But the key then is to get to the point where we are outside of our domain area. And that's where I think that's contingent upon us in the domain areas to say, this is an interesting problem. I need to be solved. It is way outside of my expertise. I can't do that. And then, so that's kind of what the use is for. And I think that's what you're asking for. Where are the things that are outside of our expertise that you guys, oh yeah, we can do that. And then you lay out a plan. So what I'd like to do then, I think, Rob and everyone, unless we want to circle back, is talk about the use-inspired research a little bit, because I think then that'll help you guys some too. What I've done is taken those templates that we have, and go ahead.
Before we moved,
I'm sorry, I
just had like a couple of questions and comments. So I recall that in the feedback that you got for the pre-proposal, they were mentioning that they wanted to see more on the foundational AI side. So I don't know. I mean, Rob has much more experience than I do on this, but I do kind of feel that we do need to provide more foundational AI and just connect it to the broader themes. But so Rob, what was the feedback on those other proposals? Did anyone actually complain about the lack of
No, nobody. I mean, of course, there was foundational stuff in there, and I wrote some sections, but it was easy to sort of explain why this foundational stuff is important and could be very impactful in those particular domains, like it was education or networking. And so I think when we get together, Elena, in our group, we'll just say, what do we think are the frontiers? What do we think we need to be working on? And if it's relevant to machine learning and optimization in general, it will certainly be very relevant to everything that's going on here. So I don't think we need to overthink it too much. I have in mind, like, what do I think are the important problems I want to work on just generally? And I can immediately see how those would be very relevant to this institute. So I think that's what we'll do, and then we can just integrate that into the proposal. And there probably will be ideas that maybe haven't come up on the applied side because it's just, they're not even aware that those are things you could do or whatever. And we can kind of build that into the overall proposal. Does that make sense to you, Elena?
Yes, and another thing I'm thinking is that well, I mean, we do have limited time now, but I remember like that usually what they emphasize in these things is that it has to be, the proposal has to be more than the sum of its parts. So I feel like we should be kind of careful not to have the AI side and application side separate and just try to write it as one coherent story, which is of course very difficult. And just the final thing, just from a practical side. So currently everything is in a Google Doc, but I assume at some point we would switch to LaTeX because it's a bit hard to do the citation management. At least I'm not used to it in Google Docs. So, and we don't have that much time, right? When was the deadline? Like May 12th? Was that
The 13th.
the
Excuse me,
13th?
13th, yeah. I will come back to that. I agree in some of this. I wanted, but Michael's got his hand up, and I actually want a question for Chris and Volker. When you talked with Kyle, did you come up with fundamental advances in AI versus some tweaks? I don't know if you got down that spectrum, but Michael, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
I was just going to make a comment that for the meeting with Rob and the AI people, I think it would be good to add Young-Jae Lee to that. I think it will broaden the perspective of the AI. Rob, and I think it would be a good counterbalance to an optimization heavy otherwise meeting.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't mean to exclude or.
No, I know you
Anyways,
didn't. I would just
all-
being explicit, right?
Yeah, I think
And
he's
then-
not.
So, and one other quick thing I'd like to say is that what did we do on the networking one? We worked the following way. We said, what are use cases? Like, I don't know, pick your use case in there, like precision agriculture for predicting crop yields. I don't know. And then we had these like kind of bubbles, like use case. And then everybody could sort of say, oh yeah, then this research thrust could plug into that use case. And this one could too. And so we sort of, that's how we built those connections that in that kind of integration that Yelena was saying we need to have, by just sort of saying, you guys come up with the use cases, and then we'll say, oh yeah, this research, foundational AI research we're doing could be used for that use case, and this stuff could be used for the other use case. And that, I think that could work here too.
Okay, I see a visual.
Good, good.
Chris or Volker, did you feel like your conversation on Friday got to the point where you got to stuff that would require foundational advances in AI to address? You were able to lay out questions that you, Volker, weren't able to solve, but the Kyle or some had ideas that would help, that were beyond and it don't currently exist, but required foundational advances?
I'm not sure is the honest answer, and that would be, I mean, Kyle would be the one to say, actually, your problem is trivial. We can do that already, or no, this. Chris, did you get a sense of that?
Or I got the impression that we were able to point to some papers from like the last year or two, which are current active area of research in machine learning, which we thought like this could be translated to this application. Whether it would just work out of the box or whether it might still be just total proof of concept, that's not clear.
Okay. So there's some, it's not, you're not sure if it's there all the way yet. Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
Well, the other option, the other side, and this is kind of building, is getting the domain knowledge people, the cows people and the vet med person to work on this. The way I thought is to take give them solid writing assignments that I understand. It's the we have those templates for each of the domain areas, the crops and the livestock and et cetera. We had these 6 or 7 questions. This is after the first meeting, Kyle. I think Elena brought these up and then Kyle structured it and made these questions. What is the problem to solve? What is the most obvious solution, et cetera. I think then I thought about that the way we write in the USDA proposals. And the first few are just a rationale and significance. Why is it important? And what are you going to be doing? And what is the problem you want to solve? What is the most obvious solution? What's unique or difficult about the problem that requires something new? And then we lay out the approach, which is what are you actually going to do? Objective 1 to address this issue as blah, 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 blah. Objective 2, objective 3. That's how we that's sort of the USDA structure. And I think those of us who write for the USDA understand rationale, significance, approach, the research approach. I think we can start writing that. And I think that would help some of the folks like Rob and others to understand what we need. I can do that on the crop side, kind of, I've already put it in that template. If you've been meeting with Shoa's group or some with the forestry group, if you can start thinking that way, that's what I think we have about 1.5, 2 pages to write that out, rationale, significance, and an approach, objective 1, 2, 3, whatever it takes in that structure, what we think we're doing. And then that helps the AI people on the Rob and Michael and et cetera, understand what we're up to. And so that's what I'd like to get done as soon as we could on the domain knowledge side. I don't know what Joa, Jingyi, Volker, if you guys have thoughts on that or not, but that's my thought there. And that would help them. And I'd say we move on that as fast as we can and go forward. So open up content comments, but Michael's up first. So go for it.
So I just had a question. We had a discussion in the livestock group, and the question in there was the broader context is how much the livestock discussion should impinge upon a cropping or a feed discussion, and then the feed discussion could impinge upon a cropping discussion or a soil discussion. And the question is there a broad view, a top-down view, that all of those things, all of these application domains are related, or that there's some integration going to occur across there, or some broader questions that are being asked at that higher level, which integrates across all three and potentially across forestry and those domains as well. So I saw some stuff this morning about solar design, where solar design was where they were talking about integrating solar agriculture with solar paneling. And then they were saying that maybe there was some forestry research that could be relevant, because forestry research is talking about growing secondary crops in the shade of trees. And so those kind of different perspectives that we could get from an integrated view of smart agricultural and forestry applications might be some defining ways to bring a lot of the domains together, as well as tying it to specific AI applications.
Yeah, we talked about that. I forget what group that was with, but sort of that, I'm calling it the food security group, but I think broadly it's the integrator, because all these other ones are production ag. It's corn and soybeans, it's cows and pigs, it's the soil they are on. Who cares? You got to get it to the consumer and the citizen, which gets us away from the farm and the crop production and the livestock people and into the normal person. And that's kind of where we call it food security, but it's just the broader, it also lops into broader impacts, I think. And I think I've heard that from another group. We need to use that question about integration to integrate across the traditional production realms to get to the social significance and then the broader impacts. And I think hypothetically, that's what that last group, what I'm broadly calling food security, could do, but it might be a tall order. Joa, you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, no, just to add, Michael actually brought a very important point. We discussed this a lot. And one other thing that we discussed, and actually this outline here was very helpful. We filled that out, but now we are just, stressing those points from the domain side and the AI side. And one thing we tried to do in the meeting was to narrow something to very specific objectives that at the end of the day, you're gonna have to come with as a possible outcome and deliverables out of our section. So I guess Michael's point is important, related to how to integrate this in a big picture and with other the domains, but at the same time, we're trying to narrow some of the question down and make sure we have a clear outcome for this specific application, in our case, the livestock one.
Yeah, I think the way I've been thinking about it on the crop side, and we've had just one meeting with Jim, was the only person on there from the he was engineering, but I'm thinking kind of getting ahead to the budget and thinking about the objectives. The first parts of the objectives and stuff were budget, that stuff we could do and need some help from people in ComSci or engineering, whatever. But by that third objective, the only way to really achieve it would be part of the postdoc or in faculty time in the different departments over there is the only way it would be achievable. And so when Jim and whoever else helps us write that part about optimizing on-farm experimentation, that is the budget from the engineering or that postdoc, because there's going to be, I think, can help us on that. But the other parts of the budget and the earlier objectives are ones we can do with, and then just have meetings with some people over there, or have some time with the postdoc or the grad student in ComSci or in one of the engineering departments. I don't know if that helps in think about how to structure objectives. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Joa, is to like
Oh
that?
yeah, I mean, we actually lay in some of what you're gonna answer with our budget, pretty much, and then I guess leveraging other people's other domain budgets will probably be on this big picture, right? That we will integrate into our application. So, for example, if the guys in the AI domain see opportunity to develop something that will also help us to answer a question, then we leverage their budget. But what we are planning here is only considering the budget that we have. So that's how we are pretty much defining those specific objectives in our specific domain.
And so none of your objectives get to the point where you can't do them you can still do all your objectives without any direct input from the AI people, like in a serious effort. Like, you know,
at this point, yes, that's it is as it is now. But I believe as we expose those things, then people will jump and say, oh, there is a very interesting question here, or a very interesting problem or type of data that I can develop something new. That's our what do we imagine that's gonna happen.
Okay, I would then get as much of that written down as fast as you can, so some of those people can see that, so they can help them formulate the earlier part, like the stuff Rob was talking about at the very beginning.
Yes.
Getting stuff down so people can see what everyone else and where they fit in, that would be helpful. Michael, your hand is up. I don't know if that's leftover or if it's something new.
Leftover.
Okay. So I guess that's what I'm saying then, is to start writing on these things. I would really ask we'll say the people on the domain side, the CALS people, get something down, at least taking that template structure and think about it in terms of objectives, you know, significant rationale, significance, why, what you're doing, why, and then what specific objectives are. And in particular, if you know you need help on something that is not achievable under your expertise, reach out to somebody that's on the group and ask them, who are you not the one, then ask who is, and then try to meet people and get that fleshed out. If Rob is right, we need to get that part is what's going to help sell this, is our side of things. But I think we have to show integration with what people on the AI side as well are going to be doing. I'd like to pause there and stop if anyone's, otherwise we'd move on to broader impacts if anyone's, but before I do that, I want to make sure we're ready for that. Dietram's got a question, or go ahead.
Yeah, a quick question and or a suggestion, and that is, right now we don't include any of the work about that has to do with stakeholder reactions and how the use-inspired research is actually likely to be used or not be used.
Okay.
In the intellectual merit, I would argue that we should at least put a pin into that question as an intellectual merit question that really underlies the grant, and that then spills over into natural broader impacts. You know, at least if we have a little bit of room in the intellectual merits to speak to that side, I think that'd be useful.
That's a good point. And the third AI theme is essentially supposed to be doing that, and that's that, we'll call it multilateral engagement, where the different sides get together and okay, don't let us forget that. That's what I'll tell you, Dietram, and then go from there. On the third theme is I was hoping that the broadly it's just the trustworthy AI, and we'll call it social engagement and everything. I don't know if you want to add anything, Dietram, but I'm kind of looking to you to provide leadership on that, and that might mean writing something up that goes in that beginning section that's different than what goes in the broader impact section. And I see you shaking your head, so I think you understand. And okay, do you need any feedback or connections with any of the people on the CALS or the engineering and LNS side? I don't know what or do you just need to start writing and then see where it takes you?
I think what would be super useful, and this is not my idea, I'm echoing something that Kai Ping said at one of the previous meetings. I think it'd be super useful for the different groups, especially the ones that I'm seeing screen shared in front of me and highlighted in blue, to think how their use-inspired research ends up influencing particular stakeholders. So who are these stakeholders, and who are potentially mediator groups or boundary spanners, whatever you want to call them, people that might be useful to help us to get to them. So as we're thinking about broader impacts, are we engaging in primary, secondary, or in primary audiences in order to reach ultimately stakeholder audiences that will benefit from these things, that will adopt these innovations and so on and so forth. So as even just like, 2 sentences from each group that say, what we're thinking, we're really serving this group, and what's going to be crucial in terms of getting to them will be extension, will be K through 12, will be whatever. So that way we actually can later on, when we write a grid for broader impact, saying, we know, for example, that for this suite of innovations of use-inspired research, we're going to follow this kind of thrust of broader impacts related activities. This is where we're going to invest in this. And then for the kind of some of the further down the road applications, we're thinking why. So that's if we could have something from each group, I think that'd be super useful. I think it'd be useful for the overall structure of the grant, not just for the broader impacts.
I might think about this after we get off and try to stick something in this section up here that provides, and it's, I don't know what color that is, pinkish red, whatever that color is, to a question that gets at what you're saying, something like, what groups do you need to engage with? Who needs to, who are the stakeholders? How do you intend to engage with them? So they can provide feedback. Okay. All right. I haven't done much on broader impacts beyond, we had a meeting and we've done some email exchanges. The only thing I'll say is we've had some concrete additions to the, there's work with Earth Partnerships, Leitrim, Tom Zinin from 4-H, so those are additional channels. And then Angela Walpachik is a grad student in forestry and wildlife ecology who will be hopefully moving along towards, but anyway, she has an internship program with high school students in Menominee High School. And she's agreed that sort of put in some money with her as a postdoc. I've talked to her major professor and they're on board with all this. And so I think those are part of this. She also has research questions that are pertinent to the project, as well as this potential as sort of a pathways program for high school students to get them engaged. So we have some concrete movement forward, but we don't have any of the deeper, I would say, the overarching text yet. We have functional things, not the story. All right. Do you have anything you want to add on broader impacts or anything, Dietram? Otherwise, I would move into the forums and such.
No, I think we just got it right.
All right. That's where I'm at too. All right. Chris, you're up with, oh, I'm sorry. Karen's got a hand up.
Oh, yeah. Hi, thanks. Yeah, I was wondering about expertise in understandable AI. Is that part of the expertise on the team here? Like we've talked about that some, and that's something I don't have expertise in yet. And that would be really interesting to me, different angles on understandable AI for scientists with other domain knowledge, and then also for communication to potential users of like downstream users.
I'll let somebody on the AI side. I have no idea if we have that expertise.
So I know about it. Maybe Yelena knows more. It's something that Rob probably knows more too about. So it's something I'm aware of. I know a lot of the models. Not something I've done research in myself. So that's as much as I can say.
Rob's pretty quiet too, or he's out of call.
He had to step out.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like we should be careful about that's something we need to be aware of and think about how to incorporate that. Understandable AI. All right, I got a note and try to remember. And you think Rob knows this, or knows who to talk to about this?
I mean, I'm sure he knows about it and knows various models. I'm not sure how much he directly works on it himself.
Okay.
So
okay, all right. We might need to think about that one. So Karen, I guess we don't know. That's what it comes down to.
Okay,
Use
yeah,
Google.
well,
Use Google.
that'd be interesting to discuss possibilities.
Okay, I understand. Because I actually starting to see that last domain area, what I'm calling food security. It's going to be somewhere in there. We have to think about these kind of questions and how to get at this integration across the production sciences into socially relevant stuff. And that would be understandable AI would in essence be a part of that. Okay, Chris, I'd like to hear you. Now we're going to move into some even more concrete than this other somewhat less concrete. Forms, letters of collaboration, and budget. So Chris, you're up on forms for people.
Yeah, it might be helpful to stop screen sharing just so I can see people.
Yep.
Thanks. So yeah, we've if you've done NSF grants before, you know the drill here on all the supporting forms that we have to provide. And if you're new to NSF, I'll just go through it quickly. So one is current and pending support. And I've set up, I emailed everybody a link for both downloading a page where you can download the form, and then a folder we created in Google for uploading forms. If you don't feel comfortable or you're not experienced with uploading forms into Google, you can just email them to me and I'll upload them for you. So you need to complete a current and pending support form, a COA or collaborators and other affiliations form. Again, the email I sent has a link to a Google template you can use for that. And again, a link to a folder where you can upload it or just send it to me. For the bio sketches, if you were on the pre-proposal, Kyle had everybody submit bio sketches, which I think he used to write like little biographies in the pre-proposal. So if you've already submitted that and you don't have any changes, you're good. But if you haven't submitted a bio sketch yet, or if you want to make changes, you'll need to do that. And again, I shared a link where you can look at what's in the folder already and decide if you want to make changes and upload something new. And the final piece that everybody needs to commit to is a section called results from prior support. This is an NSF grant, but it's an NSF grant with other granting agencies as partners, including USDA. So while normally NSF just wants to know about other NSF support you've had, for this call, they actually want you to pick one grant from a whole list of other potential supporters, including USDA and DOD. So if you've had grant support from any of the agencies that are on this RFP, you need to complete this section. And even if you don't, I need you to go to the Google form I created and just start filling it out so I know you don't have support and I don't have to nag you. So, so basically I put in a link to a Google form, go in, fill it out. If you don't have any prior support, it will be really quick. If you do have prior support, the one thing that Google Forms at UW doesn't support well is file uploads. So there is a required bibliography of publications that have come out of the project you pick as your example of your prior support, and you'll need to send me the bibliography directly. You can't upload it into the form, and the form will prompt you to do that and give you my email address. Deetram.
A question on the pending form. Do we have a title and an amount for this one, for the current pending, since that goes on the current pending?
We have a title. Do we have an amount, Paul?
It'll be the 20 million. I mean, the full amount. That's what the number is. That's the, okay. Yeah. So I would just
put the two of USPI's 20 million and some title for this one.
Yeah. Midwest AI Institute for Climate Smart Ag and Forestry, or Agriculture and Forestry. But yeah, by the end, we'll have people go through all the forms, make sure they're right. But
just add, yeah, if you can add it anyway, so then I don't care.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Jeremy?
Yes, for this the previous support. So you said, so NSF always wants NSF support, right? Mm-hmm. So in this case, we are going to list NSF plus one of our choice, or only one?
You just pick one, but if you haven't had NSF support, but you've had support from one of the other agencies that's on this call, you still need to do it for one of those agencies. Normally it would just be limited, like if you hadn't had any NSF support, you wouldn't have to do this. But for this call, if you've had NSF, USDA, DOD, or a couple of others, you'll need to pick one. You only have to do one though. Just pick one example of prior support and fill out the form. And the Google form I built will kind of talk you through that. So it lists all the agencies, and then it instructs you to pick one grant you want to list as your prior support. Ideally, a grant that is the most connected or the most relevant to this proposal. So
that was my question, is that what are we supposed to, because we all probably have several, or well, non-junior faculty. So which, the best ones are the ones that are relevant to, or
The most relevant to what we're doing in this grant, if, that's up to you.
okay. All right.
But if you have, even if you have a grant, I think it's like only, if it's not very relevant, but you still have it, I think you are still required to like put that one in. So.
All right. Well, and Chris,
just a quick question also, Paul. The NSF, they changed now the way we submit, right? So it's the research.gov or something, because we just submit a grant proposal 3 weeks ago, and even CAUS was confused how to do that. So there is something weird going on now, right?
So this one goes in through Fastlane, and the admins we're working with know how to use Fastlane. So I think we're going to be good.
Fastlane, okay.
Yeah, and they did the pre-proposal on that. So I think I heard one person say it's called Fastlane, but it's not fast. But I don't know anything other than that. And it seemed to work for the pre-proposal. So
okay.
The people are familiar with that. Craig, you got your hand up? You're on mute.
Yes, the one question I had was for Chris is, for those of us at other institutions where our institutions require this for the subcontract, do you also want us to submit those to you, or can we just do it through our institutions?
If you do it through your institution, it needs to get to us. Like, we need to make sure it ends up in the grant. So if you send it through your institution and it ends up with Angie or with Jen, we should be good.
What I've always done is send them, the forms go to the PI or the PI, and then still go through do it both ways, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally, yeah, please, it'd be much simpler if you just upload it to Google and also send it through your institution, and then we'll have it sooner and we'll know we're good. And regardless, you definitely need to fill out the Google form for results of prior support.
Oh, okay. I thought that was also Baylor. Okay.
Yeah, that probably won't be something your institution wants. And even if it is, we're trying to get it all into one spreadsheet through Google Forms. So,
Chris, there's several texts in the chat going around. I just want to make sure the email you sent this morning has the form that has a list of all of these documents and everything, or is there, do people want to centralize one email, tell them to do A, B, C, D, E, whatever?
Yep, I sent an email at 11:30 this morning that says basically the following are due April 29th and gives a list of what's due, and there's links within that list, and those links will take you to the forms and also to the folders where you need to upload any uploads. If you didn't get that email, let me know. I just replied to the email list that Paul has. So if you didn't get it, put it in the chat and I will, or email Paul, and we will make sure you get that and have all the links.
Chris, is there a format for the bibliography to send, or preferred like file type?
We haven't gotten there yet. What we're asking people to write, because so many people use so many different things. For now, use the Google document and then just do, Lee and Chang 2015, and then put it the citation with all the standard stuff somewhere down below or a reference document. And we're going to have to make a command decision eventually to integrate it all. The actual writing program description will probably go to numbers, reference 1, 2, 3, etc. And there is an NSF format that maybe someone else has used it. We can use it. All I know is they want you to list all the authors. That's about the only thing I know. But we're making this one up, and so for now, make sure you get the information there or have it internally. Then we'll clean that up, circle back and clean up the references.
For the results of prior, it would be ideal if I got it in an editable format. Sorry, I'm not going to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if I can copy and paste, and copy and pasting out of a PDF can be a pain. So it could be a Google Doc, it could be a Word doc, but something where I can copy and paste everything. We might end up using a tool like Zotero, where we just compile everything in one place, and then we can format everything at once to be in alignment with what NSF wants. But we don't have our platform picked. So at this point, send me something editable as much as you. I can't remember the numbers where I could just click on it and pop it into Zotero and everything self-populates. I love those. So make sure those are on your references if you've got them. If not, I can look them up. So thank you.
All right. Yeah, I misunderstood this, so thanks.
Yeah, I think we're still going to talk about references in the actual project description, or were we going to talk about how to
Well,
handle those?
yeah, that's what I was talking about. Basically, do what you can for now. We haven't settled on a format, but the key is just state them with the words, Smith and Jones or whatever the names are, and put the details in or have them available and send them as a separate document or something like that. Well, we haven't figured that part out. I'll just be frank.
Actually, if for now, until we get this figured out, if you're typing in the proposal and you have a reference you want to include, a super easy way to do it is put in Jones and Smith 2002, add a comment to that short reference that has a web link to your publication. You don't even have to type out the reference. Just give us the web link and we'll get it into a format.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So a comment with a web link. If you don't have a web link or it's not an accessible publication, then we will eventually need to get a full citation from you. Again, comments and the draft will work. That gets everything in one place, which is kind of nice, and we don't lose pieces. We might end up moving this into an editable format where we can do running citations. So, but regardless, if you put in a comment with a link, we can get it into whatever format we're using.
Okay. No, want to talk about letters of collaboration and budgets quick. We've got about 15 minutes, not quite. Letters of collaboration, there's a spot in there, and these are, for those who are USDA, these are not letters of support. These are letters of collaboration. They're extremely formulaic. The key is they have a very set structure, and it basically says, we will do what it says in the full proposal. And we agree. And then Smith and Jones, well, Paul Mitchell signs it, and that's what all it says. And then when you write up your objectives or your activities in the domain areas or wherever, thanks, Chris put it in the link in there. Actually say on this part, so-and-so will do such and such. We will work with the Wisconsin Association of Professional Ag Consultants. We will be presenting at their meetings as laid out, and they are collaborators officially on this project. Things like that. That means they know we are agreeing to present. They have agreed to let us present at their meetings. Things like that. Or some groups, maybe it'll be, I think, Joa, you might be getting some farmers to do collaboration with on their operations. Maybe that's what they say. We will collaborate as it lays out in the document, in the project description. And then you, in the actual project description, explain what those collaborators will do. That's what their letter basically says. I will do what it says in the full proposal. Any quick questions on the collaboration? It's like I said, it's very structured format. From talking to a few people, they said the hard part is people want to add more information than they're supposed to. And it's literally that structure that's laid out in that template is all they want. Who you are and that you will do what it says in the project description or the facilities and equipment.
Yeah, it seems that they don't want us to have someone writing. I think this research is important, or
nope, none of that.
It's not this.
No, it says specifically these are not letters of support. Underlined in bold, I think, in the solicitation. So it's like I said, it's very different than USDA. They just it's very structured. So if you have any questions about that, hit the link there and you'll see what they want. But I would recommend starting to chase some of those down. And I know Kyle is hot on getting one from the Icicle group. I didn't realize Rob was associated with that one. And I've been reached out. There's one at Iowa State I've been interested in working with as well, because they use a model called AppSim. And so start grabbing those. If any questions on that, let us know. We'll provide help on that one.
So just one more point on that one is that letters of collaboration in NSF proposals are anyone who is an unfunded collaborator on the project must provide us with this cut and paste letter. So they don't have to put much work into it. It really is a cut and paste thing. The work might come into explaining either in the facility section or in the project description how we're going to work with this unfunded collaborator.
Yeah, that's the key. It's unfunded. They're going to work with us, but they're not receiving any funds. And that's what makes them a collaborator. So if you have anyone like that in mind, you need a letter of collaboration. All right, let's talk budgets then. What on the Cal side, which is our department budget person is Jen Caney. And I've sent some budgets out to people I sort of saw as leads in each of the groups. I can resend those out again. The budgets, my understanding is they work at the departmental level. So there will be one from the Animal Dairy Science Department. There'll be one from the Soils Department. There'll be one from the Agronomy Department. And so if you're on different parts of the objectives, we'll work that out later. But she will assemble all the budgets that come out of CALS. And she has also agreed to do the Craig from Baylor, Catherine and Karen from Maryland and Florida, because that's sort of in the Cal side of things. On the LNS and College of Engineering or School of Engineering, whichever it is, that, I forget her name now, Angie somebody, Chris helped me out there. There's another person who will help organize all that. And again, I'm pretty sure.
Angie Montgomery.
Angie Montgomery. And if you don't have those, email me or actually email myself or Chris Caruzzi and we'll get you connected. And we had some rough targets there. And what I did early on with Jen Caney for planning is took all the people on the ComSci and on LNS and in the School of Engineering, put all a month of summer salary down, and 4 postdocs, a couple of research software engineers, and I forget how many graduate students. And it came up to a number that seemed to be like I was sort of thought that was a target. I think I had way back a couple of weeks ago, it was like 8 million or something like that. That's kind of what that rough idea is. And so who would like to be a budget person on the LNS and or engineering side? I can send you what I did more carefully if you want to be like the budget person, or else we'll wait for Kyle to come back next week. Basically, I'll send you those budgets. I think I'll send it to each sort of as a group email to that group. But none of these are official. You're gonna have to sort that out yourselves. But Kyle's vision, there'd be a couple software engineers that would help write code for everybody, particularly on the engineering and LNS side, potentially with some of people over here. I think you had 4 postdocs and 6 graduate students to sort of be the support staff for all the AI people on that side. Some of them might work with people in CALS or in School of Vet Med, but they would be housed in your units and you guys will have to sort that out. That's kind of the idea there. And then I kind of broke the budgets down internally on the Cal side for each of those thematic areas, the crops, livestock, forestry, et cetera. And then there's also some money set aside for project management, some money set aside for broader impacts. And so if those you get active in the broader impacts, there's potentially more option for more budget there as well. So like some of you might have extension position appointments. You might be willing to work on the research part for your domain area and potentially on the broader impacts as well. Or some of you might work completely on the broader impact side, and there will be room for some budget there potentially. I'm not sure what else to say on budgets. One thing I would say for Craig, Karen, and Catherine is let's try to get these through your systems as fast as possible because you're as sub awardees, it takes longer. Budget questions? I don't know what else to say other than there's a lot. It's 20 million disappears real quickly. That's what I'll say. It seems like a lot, but it just is gone. I don't know.
Well, I have a question. Is there like a master list of the on-campus department centers that are going to receive funding through this, like their own funding, as opposed to
yes,
another unit?
Yeah, well, the part like, for example, I'll take the livestock group. I'm not involved in that group. I don't know what they're doing. I gave them a budget target. I think it's 1.5 million. I don't know what they're going to do with it exactly. And they are going to have to sort out how much goes in summer salary to so-and-so, how much goes in summer salary to such and such person, how much for grad RA, how much for postdoc, how much for materials and supplies, and travel, things like that. That's kind of how I don't want to be in there trying to tell everyone what to do with those target amounts. I think I don't want to do that. I think that's not the right way to operate. And we haven't done that a lot, or I shouldn't say Kyle hasn't done that a lot on the people in LNS and engineering. And so you guys are going to have to assemble around those themes. And like Kyle's idea was that summer salary for people and postdocs, RAs, and research software engineers. Kind of had some numbers there, but I am feeling those are all negotiable. That's my feeling.
So Paul, that makes really good sense. I think what I'm wondering is, do we just have a list we can check off when we've received budgets from people? So we can make sure we have all the budget.
I can get you that.
And no one slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, I can get you that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, particularly, yeah. All right, well, it's close to time. I'm kind of open. What I'd like, so maybe I can give a quick review of what we need to do. Otherwise, I'd like to be done unless people have other issues. Start writing. That's the big thing. On the domain knowledge side, I like 1.5 2-page targets. Put your we need references. Stick them on the side, like Chris suggested, as a comment, or the links to them. We'll eventually get that integrated. For the folks on writing at the beginning part, please organize yourselves as you see fit. Kyle didn't provide guidance in that part yet, but the pre-proposals in a different directory. You can look at what his idea was there. And then there's a bunch of forms to do. Chris is giving you that email is available. And then letters of collaboration for unfunded people working with you. We need to start gathering those. And then budgets on, like I said, at least in my college, they operate at the departmental level. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that's how it works in LNS and engineering, but I don't know. So I guess start assembling into groups to work with each other. If you don't have anyone to work with, start calling people and asking them. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping this works. We'll see how this goes. Questions or comments or anything? Otherwise,
Put in a question for Chris. Does the list of organizations that you have, it doesn't include USDA NAS? It's the only one that I would have been funded from before.
Yeah, USDA is on the list. I mean, it's USDA NIFA, so I think, but they may be interested in just anything from USDA. I can check the RFP and get back to you.
Right. I was trying to look too, but I can't tell.
okay, there'll be a follow-up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm around. This will be recorded. There's some people that weren't able to be on. What are people's thoughts for meeting on Wednesday? Do any of you feel like you need to meet again on Wednesday or not? Anyone have a strong opinion? No, I see lots of head shaking. No, yeah, that's what I figured. That's why I did cancel last week. And frankly, I'm doing job interviews for some extension positions. I've got 5 hours of interviews that day, and then immediately this meeting. So I think I'll just cancel that one. I'll send out an email to people that says, if you have questions, don't be afraid to reach out. Chris and I can help out. Kyle, his email says he'll be back on the 25th. So that means next week, basically Monday. All right, well then forms and stuff, please start writing. All it takes, I'm assuming we're all been through the real world here. Everyone will edit your stuff and think it's horrible, so don't worry about it. We're all in the same boat. I know if you have a thin skin, you're not academics writing for each other. It's not the place to be. So, and then, so please start writing. And then the budget stuff, particularly, I'm not sure what's the LNS and engineering. I'm just very uncomfortable on organizing that. That's something for you guys to figure out, I guess, or I was hoping for Kyle to provide leadership, but he's not here today. All right, well then let's call it a day. Please, I'm assuming you all got plenty of things to do, and let's get this work done. Thanks, everyone.